Right. So in the previous lesson, we created a canvas in form mode, and now we're going to build off of that canvas, essentially. We're going to open up actually a pre-made file, um, but it too will have a canvas on the same plane. So if you haven't already, open up L6-02 and we'll begin. I guess we'll go through the learning objectives real quick. You're going to create a form face. Okay, so this is still in free form mode, and as well as a form cylinder, and then we're going to edit those faces and cylinders once they've been created. So we're going to upload and open the supplied file trigger with mechanics. I've already uploaded all the files that I need, so trigger with mechanics is here. I'll save and exit out of that. Opening this up. Oh, it's read only. Let's make it editable. Okay, it is editable. All right. Here we are. Okay, notice we've got a couple of things going on here. We've got an entire assembly. If I toggle over this, my computer's slow right now. Okay, so I'll give it a second. If I toggle over internal mechanics, this whole subassembly lights up. And so that's referred to as an assembly, okay, in Fusion, as opposed to a part. So it's several components. So we've got that. And then under bodies, we have the trigger as well. They're going to want us to go ahead and turn that guy off. And let's see what else they want. So that we've uploaded it, we've opened it up. Step 2 is what we just went over. Notice there's a group of components named internal mechanics. Also notice there's a trigger body in the bodies folder, and use the eyeball icon next to the trigger body to turn it off. Then we're going to click create and create form. So create form. And then in create form, we're going to go create and face. Create face while we're in the form itself. We're going to click on our YX plane. And it doesn't snap to like a sketch would, okay? It keeps it in 3D because we're free form. You can, in free form modeling, you can sketch panels like we're gonna, or faces like we're doing now in 3 dimensions. And so for that reason, they don't do the auto snap that would happen if you were to create a sketch in parametric modeling. So instead, we have to manually go like this. And they want us to create a parallelogram that roughly resembles the handle. So I'm just going to go inside the handle for now and do something like this. And it doesn't even have to be a perfect parallelogram, meaning, you know, this doesn't have to necessarily be parallel with that, but something close. Okay, so here we have it. I right clicked and clicked OK to exit out of the face function. And here we are. Use the view cube to navigate to the front view, which we did, and then select the front plane to sketch on, which we also did. Zoom in to the saw's handle area and place 4 points in the sketch to create the parallelogram roughly parallel to the reference image's handle. Click OK, and the primitive face is created, and we can then modify it. So real quick, before we continue, I guess I want to take a step back here. And what we're doing is we're creating the body, we're recreating the body of this reciprocating saw. So we can physically see the body here, right? The outline of it anyway, but it's in 2 dimensions, it's flat. So we're going to add a 3rd dimension to it so that we can recreate it and view how it interacts with these 3-dimensional internal components here. Okay, so that's the whole goal. And to do that, our approach is going to be to create, to model, to freeform half of the saw and then mirror it over the XY plane. Okay. So anyway, that's what we're doing. So we can see that this sketch, which is the start of the form of this exterior, it lies on the XY plane. And if I click on the right side here, it lies inside of our internal components. And we don't want that. We want it to encase, right? It's a casing to the internal components. And so this panel needs to be moved out in the Z axis to sit proud of our internal components. So let's see what they say here in step 5. The new face is currently on the front sketch plane, which is in the middle of the internal mechanics component. Rotate the view so you're looking at the saw from a rear angle, okay, and then click Modify, Edit Form. Use the on-screen manipulator to drag the new face so it sits outside the internal mechanics component geometry. Let's read on to step 6. Use the view cube to navigate to the right view and verify that the new face rests outside the internal mechanics component geometry. The distance should be roughly 35 millimeters. They say roughly. I'm going to just copy that. If they say 35, that's what we're going to do. Click OK in the control panel to accept the modification. So we are going to go to Modify, Edit Form. Okay. So again, we've got Create, and we created our face. And now that it's been created and we're out of that face mode, we can click Modify, Edit Form. And I can then highlight the form itself. And in this case, it's our parallelogram. And in the Z axis, I want to drag it out. We can verify that I'm dragging in the right axis by clicking on the right face, and Z should be left, which it is. We're going to go 35 millimeters. And I believe I might have done this wrong. I think that just went 35 millimeters from where it just was. Let's see. If I go back, yep. So it's showing minus 20 here. So I'm minus 20 from where I drug it out to. So if I go back to that's my my XY. I'm still in modify, so I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to go 35. Oh, wrong way. Minus 35. Okay. That didn't do it. Minus 35. Oh, now it's thinking. God. Glitchy computer right now. Third time's a charm. Well, all right. 30, 35. Boom. Okay. That was a little tricky. All right, minus 35. We can see that it's outside. We can also see that it's parallel, right? There's no depth yet in the Z. It's parallel to our XY plane, but it stands 35 millimeters to the left of it. Select the view cube's top edge of the front view and then turn off the visibility to the internal mechanics component. So the reason they're having us turn off the view to our internal mechanics is simply because we want to simplify what we're looking at. It's kind of getting in the way. So we're at the right orientation they wanted us in. And now we're going to click Modify, Edit Form again, and then select the new face's front edge. And while we do that, we're going to hold Alt on the keyboard and use the on-screen manipulator arrow pointing along the Z axis to drag the selection 5 millimeters. So let's do that. Modify, edit form. We're going to select this line segment. All right, this is X, this is Y, right? And this is Z. We can see that based on our cube up here. So I want to hold Alt, click on my arrow here, and go 5 millimeters this way. What you can see is there's another line segment has shot down this face here. And what that means is we now have two distinct segments. Okay, before this, we only had one distinct segment. Now we have two. We've gone 5 millimeters. That's great. Because you're holding the, and that's a good point. It's because you're holding the Alt key when you do that, that a new edge on the face is added, a new panel, if you will. And then you release Alt and the mouse to accept the modification. If we hadn't done that, we would have simply stretched the single panel that we had before this instead of adding a new panel. Hold the Alt key again and use the on-screen manipulator to modify the geometry along the X-axis now. Drag the selection forward to a new edge on the face as that geometry is tweaked. Accept the new position by releasing the mouse button and the Alt key. Okay, so we're just gonna do this again, but now it's gonna be in the X. So hold Alt, and we're in the X. Boom. Okay. And I have released Alt and then released my mouse to accept it. Select the face's rear edge, hold down Alt and modify the rear edge minus 10 millimeters along the Z-axis. Release Alt and use the on-screen manipulator to adjust the edge's position without adding a new edge face. Okay, so click on this edge, hold Alt. This is still Z, okay? Look at our little cube. That's Y, that's X, is Z. So we want to click on Z and go now back minus 10. We can see that magnitude there. We can change it if we want to, but we don't. So click Enter. And now they're saying drag it, manipulate it without holding Alt. I exited out of edit form. They said to manipulate it in the X without holding Alt, and see now that this panel, you don't make a new panel, you just stretch and modify the existing panel. Go ahead and click OK. Left click in an open area of the canvas to deselect the form. We've done that. Because you held down the Alt during the modifications, new face divisions were added, or new panels, right? Like you've got these segments here that can now be manipulated independently of one another, or not independently, but separate. The new form now has 4 faces when originally it only had a single face. And because it was done in a variety of the Z and X axis, if we go Shift and rotate, you can see now that we're starting to build part of this saw in well, all 3 axes, the X, Y, and the Z. Go back to our front. It's shifted quite a bit, but we'll fix that. Navigate to the front view without holding Alt. Use the on-screen manipulator to drag the form's front edge so that it aligns with the reference image. And they have it aligned with the green part, so not outside the black, but where the green is at. So if I want to move this whole image, I'm going to go Edit Form, Modify Edit Form, and I'm going to click and drag from the upper right down to the bottom left. And I'm going to move this whole thing to the left. Now, take a look here at the controls. Once you've selected something, you have this in-axis manipulator right here, which allows you to go both in this case, because we're looking at the front, in the Y and the X. It's kind of free form and it moves the whole thing. We can go just in the Y, or we can go just in the X. We can also expand this parallelogram by clicking and dragging out, or make it smaller by dragging towards the center. We can also rotate it like so. At any rate, let's move it. Right, so I'm going to make it so that our bottom left corner is kind of where I want it. And I'm going to deselect that. I'm still in edit form mode. I'm going to come up here and just click on the point. So you can, in freeform, you can adjust segments You can adjust points, and you can adjust panels. So I'm going to move this. That's -10. Let me adjust this to -11 to get right up close. Maybe I'll go -12. Oh wow, that was wrong. -11, -12. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, and I'm going to do the same here. -12, so that we have a parallelogram here, or at least close to it. And that's good. Okay, I'm gonna select this edge. I exited out of edit form on accident. It's kind of compact. And where'd my magnitude button go? So I want to go back a little bit. -10 is too much, so let's put in -5. And yeah, that's pretty bang on there. I'm going to select the whole thing again. It's a little bit too low. Bring it up just a bit. Click OK. All right, that's pretty close. So we've effectively changed our parallelogram, or our 4-panel segment here, to kind of fit what we want here. I'm adjusting this so that it's parallel like we want. Okay. So in steps 13 and 14, that's what we just did. We aligned both the front and back edge with the front and back part of the canvas, or the handle. Double click on the form's bottom edge to select the entire chain. Use the on-screen manipulator on plane option to drag the entire selection downwards. Click OK on the control panel to accept the modification. So they have it terminating below kind of the end of the handle. So that's what we'll do. We need to bring it down a little bit more. So edit form, we're gonna do what they said, which is to double click on any one of these segments here, and it should highlight the entire bottom edge. You can see highlighted in blue the entire bottom edge. We're gonna move this down, okay, like so, and that allows us to keep our parallel, or our slant, but our two right and left segments parallel, and click OK. All right. That was step 15. Zoom out and inspect the progress. The first few faces are created, and these will be used to define the geometry. All right, so are we happy? I would say so. This is a little bit higher up on the handle than they have it, but that's okay. We'll be kind of forming this as we go. Click Create Cylinder and choose to sketch on the top plane or the XZ plane. Place the center point roughly horizontal to the sketch's origin, which is, the XY is what they're saying. And then draw a circle that is approximately 45 millimeters in diameter. Let's make it exactly 45 millimeters. So as they've said, we want to be on so it's going to be on the XZ plane, right, which is down here. And we're going to go create cylinder. We'll click our XZ plane. And see, it's going to allow me to make this from this view, but I don't really want that. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight our top view. You can see the part of our handle that's already been made. Let's just come out here a little bit and go 45 millimeters. All right. Make sure in your control panel here that it says new body in one side for the direction. Oh, wait. My computer's glitching out. Sorry. Let me try this again. Create cylinder XZ. 45, enter. Okay, so it says, warning, the object that you created is not visible, right? Because we are looking at it from the top down. So we've got to click shift and move just a bit so that we can see its depth. And if we go to this step, next step, it says to drag it up or to enter in 50 millimeters. And to make sure for height faces, put 2, a value of 2. And that's just the number of panels in the vertical. I'm calling them panels, they call them faces. So here we're going to put, for height, we're going to put 50. And for height faces, we're going to put 2. You can see that it changes, it auto updates as we put in different numbers in the height faces. Click OK. Great. And we can see that it's not even close to our handle, but that's okay. We will adjust that in a second. A full cylinder is created, but only half of the cylinder is needed. After the modifications are complete, the geometry will be mirrored to the other side. So I mentioned that at the beginning of L6-01. And that is, once we've created half of this saw casing, we'll mirror it on the other side. So we don't need the whole cylinder, we only need half of it. So to delete half of the cylinder, navigate, to the right view, draw a selection box starting from the lower right and go upwards towards the upper left. This is interesting. So this is a kind of a nuance that is not straightforward, and so I want to highlight it. If I click right and go left, it's going to highlight anything that I intersected with that bounding box that I just created by dragging the mouse. So anything that intersects this box will become highlighted. So because this panel was inside that box, just a portion of it, it highlights the whole panel. But if I click and go down into the right, I went down into the left last time. So if I go down into the right this time, you're going to see that it doesn't select it. See that? Even though I'm highlighting a portion of it. Now if I go down into the left, boom, it highlights it. And you can see that the color changes too. So I have an orange region bound by a blue line. And if I switch to going to the left, now I have a dotted blue line with a yellow region. And so going down and to the right, what that means is you have to have the entire segment selected before or inside this region for it to be selected. So if I want that upper right panel or face to be selected, I have to make sure that I am covering the entire thing. And you'll see that just that upper right panel is being selected. So I hope that makes sense. So if we want to select just the right side of this to delete it, I'm going to right click. And I only need to intersect it when I drag to the left. I don't need to grab the whole thing. Matter of fact, if I grab the whole thing, it's going to highlight these two boxes over on the left-hand side, and I don't want that. So just intersect through these, and then we can click delete. And that was the ultimate goal there. Press delete on the keyboard to remove the faces, and that's exactly what we've done. That's what we have. Return to the front view and box select the cylinder's remaining faces. Click modify edit form. So let's go back to the front. Box select. So that's going to be this way, right? When I click down into the right and I have the orange box, I have to highlight the entire thing for it to snap or select it. Modify edit form. I'm going to select, well, let's see what they want. Use the on-screen manipulator's rotate option to rotate the cylinder's face so they're in line with the reference image's handle. Okay, and then next use the on-plane option to move the geometry roughly into the corresponding position. So let's actually use the manipulator here to at least get it close, and then we'll rotate like that, and we're close. That looks pretty good. Probably go a little more. 5 degrees is too much, so let's go 2.5. Let's go 3.5. Yeah, enter there. So I'm happy with that for now. All right, click the OK button in the control panel to accept the modification, and then save the file and continue to the next module. So we're done here. We've created some panels to start with, and we're just going to continue to build the kind of the outer form of this saw.